Hey everybody. Yeah, I know it's been a while since y'all see my face. Hopefully y'all can hear me too. But it's been a while since I done one of these videos right here. So if I may seem out of practice, it's probably because I am, because I haven't done these in my recollection in about 2 years, maybe three. But decided to just hop up here and possibly just ramble on or have some sort of a point to this video, but I definitely had some things I wanted to address as far as what's going on up here, as far as mental stimulation is concerned. But I recently had to deal with, how do I say this specifically? Certain family issue that I played a part in, and of course I take full accountability for it because that's just who I am. Because I'm a type of person who can own up to his mistakes and not have a big ego about it. Because I've never been an ego-driven person. That's just not my makeup or who I am at my very core, so to speak. But I had to deal with a certain issue of dealing with a car that I no longer have because I just didn't want to deal with it. Even the way I even got the previous car I got rid of was done in the most foul way, and the person who even sold it to me, I don't even speak to that person anymore. So that's just the end of that conversation with that car, and the end of the trials and tribulations I dealt with that car in general. It's just over. That much I definitely know. But had if you haven't guessed, it's basically was in the dealings of trying to get another car because where I stay at, it's very necessary for you to have a car. And if you don't have a car, you're pretty much just left to your own devices or just fucked in general because of the fact of you just have to get around with a car where I stay at. And if you don't, then it's kind of hard for you to get certain things done, especially as far as works and bills are concerned, because you know bills never take a day off, as we all know that. I mean, for those who work 9 to 5s or work more than the average 8 hours a day. But getting back to the topic of what originally this video was about, I basically I'm gonna title it. How can I say, emotional navigation, I guess, because that's basically what this video is the main concept for, especially for someone like me who has had to navigate through his own emotions in his own way and either failed or triumphed very, very little in doing so. I mean, kind of the reason why I even started my podcast was to kind of figure out, how I can address certain emotions that I have going on with me, and particularly how to either work, figure out how to work through them, and how to even navigate even emotions with others who are involved in my personal circle or lack thereof. But I can tell you it's definitely been a crazy, crazy journey. I can say that. And I mean, if I keep on living, it's probably going to be even more so of a journey, to the fact of I'm pretty sure I'm only going to get maybe 50% wrong, 50% right. And you never really know what the answer is to something until you actually just dealt with it on a personal level, or it's just straight up face to face with you. And I've had to learn that through my journey of trials and tribulations, or basically trial and error. That's basically the way I've learned how to do things. Because the only way I think I've learned about certain things in life is you had to physically and literally just be face to face with your own consequences of your own decisions. And because, I mean, there's no good without any bad. I mean, that's just the balance of life. I mean, that I found out is a real thing. So, because like I said, every action that or decision that you make, I mean, it's gonna either affect you either one way or another. Sometimes it even affects others. But I guess full transparency, just to what led this sort of video was, like I said, I was without a car for at least a little minute because the original car I had was no longer reliable. It wasn't even reliable from the get-go because I didn't even realize it was, I guess, what you call a lemon. I mean, it was basically a lemon because pretty much every year I had it, which was almost about 3 or 4 years, I would say, so to speak. It just always had an issue. Like, just had a car repair literally every year I had it. I mean, within the first year that I had it, I remember being stuck on a building area or some kind of plaza that was near where I used to stay at back in Raleigh, which is where I'm from, Raleigh, North Carolina. And I was stuck there for about, I want to say 4 hours or so. So it's basically nighttime by the time I actually got some assistance because I had to be towed to a AAA in order for it to get some kind of work on it. And not knowing that it was that my car battery was dying on me. Oh shit, excuse me. I did not mean to do that. But yeah, my car battery died on me that night. And then not only that, the alternator actually was an issue as well. So with that combination, I mean, you're basically bound to be fucked for the whole entire time until that's addressed. So I had to get a new alternator and a new battery for that particular car in question. So, and then, like I said, just many more repairs came after that. Yeah. But to the real core of actually this entire video, it really makes you think of who you really call your family and who really isn't your fam, or who has your best interest as far as family is concerned. And I use that term loosely because I found out within this 34 years I've been on this planet, because I recently just had my birthday in May. Shout out to me making it 34, I suppose. But you really find out that blood relation really doesn't mean shit when it comes to family. So I only consider certain people in my life or within my small circle that I have family, so to speak. Well, air quotes family. But like I said, that's a whole different topic. But that's, well, no, not a whole different topic, because that's basically what this topic is about. Because when we talk about emotional navigation, I mean, I think the first place where you even find out how to even deal with certain emotions, or how emotions cannot be, I guess, navigated in the best way possible, especially if you haven't been taught how to navigate them, especially if you have emotionally immature people within your family circle, or whoever you consider your family. I mean, whether it be both your mother and your father, or basically just whoever you stay with, or whoever had custody of you at that time. Excuse me. Yeah, because I find out later on in life, or as I grew to be a man and coming into my manhood as of right now, that some of us, and maybe some of y'all can even relate to the fact that some of us probably had emotionally immature parents. Some of us probably still have emotionally immature parents, but that's neither here nor there. But which is why I'm glad the advent of social media is at the stage of where it is now, because if it wasn't, I don't believe mental health would be at the pinnacle of where it is now, especially when you have so many people trying to advocate for it, so many people making YouTube channels for it, or some even, I guess, becoming financially secure from it to a certain degree. I mean, if that's the field they decide to jump in. But all this to say that I'm kind of glad that social media is where it is. I mean, even though it's kind of I would say it's got its good and its bad. Uh, it's pros and its cons to it. I mean, like with anything, because nothing can exist. I mean, in just one direction, nothing is pretty much a monolith. Because, like I said, there has to be balance. Like I said, but but the real breakdown of this is when I talk about emotional navigation, and it comes to the subject of, where it starts from when you become a child to an adult, and you have to go through that stage of growing up and absorbing information, trying to take it all in, trying to navigate what that is on a mental level, even though you don't fully understand it as a child, but it replays back in your mind over and over and over and over again, to the point where you start noticing things and taking account of what actually occurred, and then you process that, and knowing what you know now. And of course, we all know hindsight is 2020. You come to the logical conclusion of what that actually was at that certain time. It's damn near mind blowing. I would say that, yeah. Because the fact that you couldn't figure that out then, but then it comes full circle when you able to, process what abstract thought is. I mean, because of course, for those who don't know, I mean, at 25 or 26, which I'm thinking is the age where you fully develop a fully functional brain in adulthood. But I mean, I'm not for sure if that's fact, so don't quote me on that. But when all that becomes, solidified, and you get the full picture of what happened at that certain time, whether it be a good situation or a bad situation. And you come to realize that the significance, I guess, of that event, so to speak, and why it, of course, impacts you years later on down the line. And of course, it can be an issue if you don't address it later on down the line, especially if you have future generations after you, which is why I'm kind of on this trajectory of, I guess, not having any kids, or probably not having kids at all, because certain generations before me didn't know how to address or how to specifically or carefully know how to navigate their own emotions. And because they didn't know how to do that, and then put that on to the next generation and start a cycle of what we all know in our community, for those who look like me, generational curses. And I know in our community we always talk about breaking generational curses and whatnot, but sometimes I think the best way to even stop a generational curse, is to not even participate in it, or possibly just be aware enough or self-aware enough to know what that generational curse was, and try to maybe form a plan, or at least maybe your best plan, to make sure it doesn't become a curse that keeps going on for generation after generation after generation. Because best believe intergenerational trauma is definitely a thing for those who don't believe it isn't. Because, yeah, best believe all the effects from, of course, slavery and whatnot are still, I would say, are still a constant problem. But the only issue is now the chains aren't on the bodies, it's all in the mind now. Which is why I said a while back, before we actually have a physical revolution, there needs to be a mental revolution first. But I think that only matters to maybe a small pocket of people within our community. So, and hopefully that grows into more of a, say, an advanced way, not an advanced way, but what's the word I'm looking for? But hopefully the problem within our community, as far as having a mental revolution first, becomes, I guess, more important, or has a lot more significance amongst us, to where, I guess maybe the many pockets of the people who actually do care about it maybe can affect the people who don't care about it as much, and become so rapidly contagious to the fact of actually caring about the issue, to where it can actually be addressed. Of course, it probably won't be cured. This is intergenerational trauma we're talking about, so we're trying to address the many centuries of dealing with the fact that we had an event of where our history was stunted to the point of where something that happened that was so inhumane and still talked about to this day, even though people are trying to write it out of history books, even though I don't know how you're trying to do that or take it away like it didn't exist, but it definitely did. basically saying it's a big job to handle, so to speak, and it's going to take probably generations after me and those who are around my age range for this problem to really be less of a problem and hopefully not cause so much of an issue within our community, or at least within certain black individual circles, I would say. But until then, we still got a big job to do, and then only takes a certain amount of us to just start the ball rolling. But getting back to my original point of emotional navigation, so to speak. I always find it kind of funny that you don't really know who people within your immediate family or who they really are, or you find out who they really are, so to speak, for those who are close to their family members or not close. You find out who they really are when you become an adult, or the person who you thought was one person at one time actually was another person the entire time, but it just took you an adult, or it took you to come to adulthood to figure out who they actually are. But I mean, also within that realization or that epiphany that you have, you also realize they're never going to be who you want them to be, to who you are personally, or they're never going to relate to you in the way that you want them to relate to you. So that's also another tidbit that you learn over the years. I really wish I could be a mental health advocate in some form or fashion, but I need to figure out what steps are to do that. But I am no way like a therapist or anything like that. I just know how to be in tune with myself and how I navigate things now to where I find that I can put myself in better situations if I really just step back, take a look at things at what they are, and try to process as much as I can what the details are of that situation, and then figure out a plan of action of how to address the situation accordingly. It's the best way I can put it for me, but I mean, I know most people don't think in that form of fashion, but a long time ago, I was always taught to think before I act and think before I speak. But, some folks just don't have that instilled in them. But some folks also tell you one thing, but also do another. We usually call those hypocrites. But that's neither here nor there, because either way you see it, I mean, people are gonna do what they want to do according to their own code of ethics, or what they consider code of ethics. But yeah, because currently at the moment I'm not even talking to certain individuals who I'm referring to right now, and vice versa. But I don't have to mention who they are. They already know who they are. But like I said, this is all a lifelong journey that I'm figuring out as I go along, and I feel those individuals who are somewhat like me are probably dealing with the same issues whether it's family related or not family related, so to speak. And like I said, I used to do these videos, like I said, just for my own sake. I mean, I had a video about not too long ago. Well, no, it's actually been a few years because actually what started this, where I was talking about, hold on, I gotta figure out what word to use carefully about this because this can be put on YouTube, and YouTube's all a bunch of sensitive ass pussies about certain words. So how can I say this? Uh, hmm. Hmm. Let me just say, taking myself out of the picture. Yeah, I guess that'll work. Yeah, taking myself out of the picture, that works just fine. Because this PC world, they piss me off to a certain degree. But I mean, it is what it is. Everybody pusses to a certain degree when it comes to certain words or certain things. When I grew up hearing almost everything under the sun, but everything under the sun isn't even allowed now because you got to pay for that. I mean, but then again, that goes back to what I was saying about consequences for your actions. Even though I thought freedom of speech was for everyone, but whatever, that's a whole different video. What I may or may not make some kind of episode about that or something, but maybe not. But yeah, I almost missed these videos I used to do a lot because it made me figure out, you know, you know, what message I like to convey to people, or how I, move and talk, and how I, come out to the world. I guess for whoever sees this, whoever pays attention to it. Because originally I was going to do this as a podcast episode on my podcast, which is the Young OG Network. Shameless plug, even though ain't nobody really listening to that shit. I'm gonna be honest. For the few many viewers who do, I appreciate it, but I know, I know I ain't gonna be really big like that on the internet. So, but I mean, once again, that's not the reason I even do these. I do these, I mean, simply for myself. But if there's a word or two that comes through somebody else's ears and they relate to it and they don't mind sharing it, I mean, that's fine too. Yeah. I mean, for those who do listen, I appreciate y'all, but I don't expect any big outcome from doing shit like this. Because if I did, then I'd be doing this a lot more often than I do now, but I don't. Yeah, because like I said, this was not the original idea. Well, that wasn't the original idea, to try to get famous online or anything like that. Because I mean, like I said, I was cool with just being myself before doing this shit. Most people who do this shit, I think, are just hungry for attention anyway, and don't have any self worth without doing this shit right here. When I was just fine loving who I was before I started doing this shit, and he's still on that journey to get to the point where I can do it 100% being fine with me. I think I'm at like maybe 90 now, but maybe 95. I give myself a little more credit. Yeah, I go with 95%. Yeah. But I feel like a lot of us are dealing with something internally that we ourselves are trying to figure out, or at least the best way to figure out how to address it to where it at least becomes a reduced problem or it doesn't become a problem at all. But, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, ain't nobody got a perfect life, even the ones who have, lots of so-called, I guess, status or certain bank accounts. no idea what that sound is, but I'm gonna have to try to edit that out. You know, I probably won't. Um, oh, somebody's car. What's it sound like? But yeah. Mm, yeah, navigating through a person's emotions, or at least navigating through my own emotions, I would say. It's a struggle. I ain't gonna lie, it's a damn struggle, man. Which is why I'm currently in the midst of trying to look for a therapist somewhere out here where I stand now. But that's not an easy task, apparently. So I just gotta keep searching. I mean, I do my journal here and there. I mean, especially with the device I'm using now to actually do this. But yeah, it's definitely a testament to who I am. So I just gotta figure out, how to keep pushing through and hope for those who are out there listening to stuff like this. I mean, you can do it as well. You just gotta keep your head up. Listen to your own inner voice. If you don't have an inner voice, find the inner voice like I did. Because I feel like this is kind of my way of finding my voice, so to speak, as I was told to do. And yeah, man, it's a journey. Yeah. So just got to keep pushing on until we get to the point of well, I wouldn't say to the point of where we feel complete. I mean, you know, most of us all should feel like they are a complete person on their own, which I certainly do to a certain degree. But let's just say it's just throughout the life you live, while you're still breathing and above ground. I mean, just know that motion navigation is a never-ending journey, and you'll probably have 100 failures before you have 100 successes. That much I'm definitely aware of, especially when it comes to that topic. And I say just embrace the L's before you get to the W's. Yeah. And that's all she wrote on that. So, for those of you who are watching this, thank you for your consideration and your viewership. Till the next time, peace.